The chilled silence of the radiology reading room was my sanctuary. Here, the world was reduced to digital pixels and medical certainties. I, Dr. Evelyn Evie Reed, 42, lived by the absolute, irrefutable evidence of the images displayed on my high-resolution monitors. As an interventional radiologist, I specialized in the most delicate, high-stakes procedures where error meant death. My life was defined by control, precision, and the sterile distance between the diagnosis and the patient's fear. My younger sister, Elara, 29, specialized in the opposite: messy, vibrant, unpredictable emotion. A landscape architect, she dealt in blooming seasons and subjective beauty, not objective truth. Since our parents' deaths, I had become her reluctant guardian, the anchor holding her fragile boat steady against the choppy waters of adult life. She burst into my office on a sun-drenched Thursday, carrying a giant paper bag from a high-end baby boutique. She was vibrating with an almost unbearable intensity of happiness. "Evie, I couldn't wait for the weekend. I just had to show you my miracle," she announced, her voice ringing with triumphant joy, oblivious to the fact that half my colleagues were peeking out of their offices. She pulled out a small, plush frame, bright pink velvet, encasing a blurry, oversaturated 3D ultrasound photo. "Look, 10 weeks and 4 days. He's beautiful, Evie. Max and I are naming him Ethan. They gave us this preview at the studio. They said he has my chin. Isn't he perfect?" she asked, her eyes shining with unshed tears of pure, overwhelming conviction. I took the frame. The weight of the cheap plastic felt immense. My professional eye, conditioned over 2 decades, instantly registered the catastrophic error. The image was a classic, unmistakable picture of a complete hydatidiform mole. The tissue was dense, granular, and lacked any clear, definitive fetal structure. The baby was a cellular lie. The chin was artifact. My mind went cold. This was not just a tragic misdiagnosis. This was a serious, life-threatening condition that, if left untreated, could develop into choriocarcinoma, a rapidly metastasizing cancer. The clock was ticking, and Elara was celebrating the bomb. I forced my expression into a mask of benign curiosity. "That's some detailed imaging." "Elara," I murmured, carefully placing the frame back in the bag. I avoided any direct confirmation, any single word of praise that could be used against me later. "It's from Fetal Dreams Studio on 6th Street. Max paid for the diamond package. It includes gender confirmation next month. The woman there, Gina, was so kind. She played the heartbeat and everything. She said I had nothing to worry about." My teeth clenched. Nothing to worry about. The predatory negligence of these unlicensed centers was a persistent rage point for me. But confronting Elara here, in front of 50 professionals, would turn her joy into public, agonizing devastation. I needed control, proof, and a surgical exit plan. "I have to go, Elara. Seriously, I have a patient waiting for an embolization procedure. Critical procedure," I said, rising stiffly. "Let's celebrate properly this Saturday. I can't wait." She hugged me, a desperate, full-bodied embrace that transferred her overwhelming happiness onto me like a physical burden. "Okay, see you Saturday. Don't be late." I locked the door the moment she left. I spent the next 72 hours submerged in a clinical panic far deeper than any critical case I had managed. I couldn't order a definitive scan on her through my hospital. It would be a massive ethical and privacy violation, and the records would be flagged immediately. I had to wait until the party, isolate Max, and execute the intervention there. The waiting was excruciating. Every time I answered my phone, I feared it would be Max or Elara calling from an emergency room. I researched the mole's typical growth rate, calculating the diminishing window of safety. The gender reveal party, set for Saturday afternoon, was a pastel nightmare. Elara's garden was swamped with friends and family, all sipping sparkling cider beneath giant pink and blue banners. Elara, flushed with attention, was glowing, her hand resting on her stomach with a pride that made my heart ache. I found Max by the bar, desperately stirring a plastic cup of punch. He looked exhausted, the strain of managing Elara's intense emotional state clearly visible. I pulled him aside, directing him to the furthest corner of the yard behind the shed, a small, enclosed space that offered temporary acoustic cover. "Max, stop stirring. We need to talk." "Now," I commanded, my voice flat, devoid of sisterly warmth, adopting the tone of a surgeon about to deliver a severe diagnosis. He jumped slightly. "Evie, what is it? Did the catering mess up? I told Elara not to use that vendor." "It's the baby," I cut him off, ruthless in my urgency. Or rather, the lack of one. "I am 100% certain, Max. Elara is not pregnant with a fetus. She has a complete hydatidiform mole." I laid out the facts, the cold medical terminology, the risk of metastasis. "I need to get her to a certified high-resolution ultrasound at Northwestern tonight. Every hour counts. Delaying treatment is gambling with her life." Max's eyes fixed on mine, the color leaching from his face until his skin was the color of unbleached muslin. He staggered back, hitting the shed door. "You're wrong, Evie. You have to be wrong. We heard the heartbeat. We planned this, Evie, the nursery, the names. She feels it. She's been so sick. It must be the morning sickness. It's the enormous production of HCG hormone from the tumor, mimicking the most severe morning sickness. It's deceiving her body completely," I countered, not letting up on the necessary truth. "The heartbeat was manufactured. I suspect they used a device to amplify her own arterial pulse and played it back. They are criminals, Max, and they have endangered her life." Tears streamed silently down his face. "How do I tell her? How can I ruin this? Her whole world is centered on that balloon drop right now." "You don't. Not yet," I said, reaching for the definitive plan. "We use my job. The countdown starts in 5 minutes. You tell her I had a sudden, severe medical crisis, a dizzy spell, a collapse, anything that requires an immediate, panicked drive to the ER. Her love and concern for me will be the only thing strong enough to pull her away from the party." Max nodded, his body rigid with terror. He walked back toward the gathering. The music swelled. The crowd began chanting, 10, 9, 8. Max approached Elara, his face pale and drawn. He whispered something to her, pointing toward me. Elara's ecstatic smile instantly fractured into alarm. She rushed toward me. "Evie, what happened? Are you okay? You look terrible," she cried, her maternal protectiveness instantly overriding her joy. I played the role, leaning heavily on her. Sudden vertigo. It's nothing. But I need to get to the ER. Max, you have to drive me. I can't see straight." Elara didn't hesitate. "The balloon can wait. Max, keys, let's go. Evie, hang on." She hugged me tight, pressing her stomach against my side. I felt the roundness, the warmth, the beautiful, terrifying lie. 15 minutes later, we were racing down the highway toward Northwestern Memorial. I called Dr. Lena Chavez, a specialist I trusted implicitly. "Lena, it's Evie. Sister, emergency. Suspected complete mole. I need a high-end, dedicated scan and consultation immediately. No records of my suspicion. It needs to look like a standard ER diagnostic." At the hospital, Elara, still focused on my supposed health crisis, was compliant. In the small, quiet ultrasound room, the truth was laid bare on the monitor. The chaotic, unmistakable pattern of the mole. Dr. Chavez delivered the diagnosis gently, clinically, but with profound sadness. "Elara, I am so sorry. The image shows a molar pregnancy. There is no viable fetus. It needs to be removed immediately." Elara stared at the screen, her world turning inward. Max sobbed, his head buried in his hands. "But the heartbeat," Elara whispered, the words choked and raw. "I felt him. I read him stories. I was sure. I know you were, I said, stepping forward, my heart breaking for her. But the people at Fetal Dreams gave you a lie. I knew at the party. I had to get you here for the proof. I had to save you. Her eyes lifted to mine, filled with a raw, agonizing confusion, not anger. Thank you, Evie, she finally said, the gratitude piercing through the terror. Thank you for choosing the worst truth instead of the beautiful lie. The D&C procedure went smoothly, physically, but the emotional fallout was a catastrophe. Elara withdrew completely. She spent days curled up on the sofa, staring at the perfectly painted nursery walls. She was grieving a life she had fully inhabited, a child she had named. The trauma was existential. My mission shifted from surgery to justice. I took a significant unpaid leave of absence from my demanding career. My focus was now solely on dismantling Fetal Dreams Studio and the fraudulent ecosystem it represented. I contacted the State Attorney General's Consumer Fraud Division. They were hesitant until I delivered my evidence. I didn't rely on anecdotes. I used my medical expertise to prove the negligence. I spent weeks meticulously collecting evidence. I tracked down patients who had left negative reviews. I found the Anderson family, told they were having a girl. Later, their OB diagnosed severe placenta accreta, a critical condition where the placenta grows too deep into the uterine wall, which Fetal Dreams missed entirely. The mother nearly died during delivery. Jessica Thorne. She was rushed to the ER, bleeding profusely, after Fetal Dreams assured her the baby was just fine. The diagnosis, undiagnosed abruptio placentae, premature detachment of the placenta. The Santiago case, the key. Fetal Dreams explicitly told a high-risk patient that her scan ruled out preterm labor. My review of the poor quality image showed clear signs of cervical shortening, a major indicator they had recklessly ignored. I compiled a massive dossier, medical reports annotated with my professional analysis, highlighting exactly where Gina and the other unqualified technicians had actively misdiagnosed life-threatening conditions. I wasn't just proving fraud, I was proving reckless endangerment. I collaborated with Talia Grant from the Tribune. She understood the human tragedy beneath the legal violation. The synchronized raid was executed with the precision of a surgical strike. I was there with the DOH inspectors and the AG's team. Simon Vance, the owner, stood defiant amidst the chaos of his pink and blue themed studio. "You have no right. We are entertainment. I'll sue," he screamed. I walked right up to him. "You charged Mrs. Santiago $200 for peace of mind, knowing her placenta was detaching. You sold my sister a picture of a tumor and told her it was her son. Your entertainment is a death trap, Mr. Vance. And now I am officially retiring you." The raid was filmed, the footage of the seized equipment and the fake heartbeat machine was devastating. Talia's piece ran that night, creating a massive wave of public outrage. The consolidated civil and criminal cases were swift and brutal. I testified as a medical expert, detailing the exact mechanisms of the mole and the dangers Vance's staff had ignored. Elara testified, her grief hardened into resolve. "I will never get back the months I spent planning, or the love I gave to a child who never existed," she told the court, her voice steady. "But I can stop them from stealing that time and that life from another woman." Simon Vance was convicted of multiple counts of fraud and reckless endangerment, receiving a heavy prison sentence and crippling fines. When the verdict came down, the courtroom was silent. I looked at Elara. The terror was gone, replaced by a quiet, profound exhaustion. She reached for my hand. "We did it, Evie. The truth won." Elara's healing was a slow, painful climb. She struggled with the idea of ever trusting her body or the medical world again. I stayed close, managing her follow-up appointments, providing the medical clarity she needed to feel safe. A year passed. One evening, I was operating on a critical case when I got a text from Max. Come immediately, no questions, it's time. I rushed to their home, my scrubs still damp from the OR. Max met me at the door, his face streaked with tears, but his eyes blazing with a light I hadn't seen in over a year. I walked into the nursery. Elara was sitting in the glider, cradling a tiny, bundled infant. He was real, solid, breathing. "Evie," Elara whispered, looking down at the baby. "Meet Liam, our son. We finalized his adoption today." I sank into the chair beside them, my professional shell cracking. I reached out and gently touched Liam's incredibly soft cheek. He was utterly perfect. "He was born this morning," Max said, choking up. "It was an open adoption. Elara held him first." Elara rested her head on my shoulder. "I had to let go of the fantasy, Evie. I couldn't risk another lie. But the moment I held Liam, I knew. He is the truth. He is the real, beautiful, overwhelming life we were supposed to find." The room was quiet, filled only with the soft rhythm of Liam's tiny breaths. For the first time since that terrible Thursday, I felt the tension bleed out of my shoulders, the meticulous effort, the legal fight, the cold truth. It had all served a singular purpose. It hadn't saved a picture, but it had saved a life and cleared the path for a real one. The sister who dealt in certainty had saved the sister who dealt in dreams, and together they had built a reality far more beautiful than any lie. There were days after that first ultrasound when the world felt strangely hollow. I went back to work, performed procedures, interpreted scans, made life or death decisions. But every time an image flickered onto a monitor, I saw my sister's smile, the pure, blinding joy she wore before her world shattered. In my career, I had witnessed tragedy in every form. I had held the weight of cancer diagnoses. I had walked families through grief. I had fought disasters inside the operating room. But nothing had prepared me for the quiet devastation of watching my own sister fall apart. It made me realize something I had forgotten in the sterile logic of my profession. A misdiagnosis doesn't just damage the body, it fractures entire lives. Some nights, after my shifts, I found myself standing alone on the hospital rooftop. The city lights stretched beneath me like a map of choices and consequences. And every time, the same question echoed in my mind. If I can't save my own sister, what does all my expertise even mean? In those moments, memories of our mother would come rushing back. She used to tell us, "Evie, you and Elara are two halves of one heart. If one of you falls, the other was born to lift her." That sentence hit differently now. For the first time, I understood that maybe my purpose wasn't just medicine, not just precision and procedure. Maybe it was her. Maybe my life's greatest assignment was saving her. But with that realization came a guilt I couldn't outrun. Had I been so focused on facts and absolutes that I pushed Elara too far into hope without safety? Had my silence, my distance, somehow made her seek comfort in places where truth didn't exist? I was a surgeon, trained to fix what breaks. Yet here I was, helpless in the face of her emotional collapse. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. I decided I wouldn't just be the sister who told her the truth. I would be the shield that stood between her and the world that had lied to her. And maybe that decision, that fierce, unshakable need to protect her, was the same force that led me into the fight against fetal dreams. A fight bigger than either of us. A fight that would end in courtrooms, headlines, and a reckoning none of us could have imagined. But there was something else happening beneath all of it. Something neither of us could see yet. An answer forming slowly in the shadows. I didn't know that somewhere out there, a newborn baby named Liam would soon rewrite our lives. I didn't know that the hollow ache inside my sister's heart would one day be filled by the steady rhythm of a real child's breaths. I didn't know that the truth, painful, brutal, unforgiving, was carving a path toward a future none of us dared hope for. All I knew was this: the truth isn't gentle, but sometimes It's the only bridge that leads us to the life we were meant to have.